Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna take some time here to let you get to know your board of directors and to let them do a little speaking to you. The rest of us have gotten to speak to you. So we're just gonna go real quick around, back and forth. As you can see, we represent 42 states and we've got a lot of voices, and that's what makes us strong. This is what gives us our perspective. They check me sometimes. I think I know what the cattle industry is, but it's a lot different in Arizona. It's a lot different in Missouri. It's a lot different in Georgia. So we're just going to jump right into it. I want you to introduce yourselves, where you're from, kind of what you do.
Testing. My name is Shad Sullivan. I'm a yearling man, stocker operator out of North Texas and Southeast Colorado. Served on the board for 6 years, and that's about as simple as it can be.
My name is Justin Oberling from Western Illinois. We have my dad and I have an order buying company my grandpa started. So we mainly buy fat cattle and kill cows and bulls. And then we'll background a few yearlings, run some cows, and farm just a little bit.
Eric Nelson from the big city of Mobile, Iowa, which is just east of Sioux City, right along U.S. Highway 20. If anybody's cutting across northern Iowa, we're kind of the classic farmer feeder. Brett he calls me the Iowegian on the board, and we've added cows. So really we ranch as well, and then we have a retail seed business and. So in 6 generations working around the place now.
Dave Hyde, I'm from Eastern Ohio. I'm a first-generation cow-calf operator. I was up until March helping my neighbor milk cows, but we sent them to New York. And it was the last dairy farm in the county, and I help a couple broiler operations, and I get a first-hand look at vertical integration, and it's not pretty.
George Wishon, cow-calf operation in Washington State.
Kyle Himmer from Kansas, and my wife and I ran a sale barn together with our family for 28 years. We're still married. It's unbelievable. And we just do cow-calf band now, and we enjoy each other. And we've got grandkids coming left and right, and we still work together with cows.
Frank Andrus from California. We farm and raise feeder calves on the west side of the Sacramento Valley. It's all a hill ranch, and we have our 2 sons with us that farm with their families also.
I'm Judy McCullough, and I'm from Wyoming, representing Wyoming, Colorado, Utah on the RCAF board. We're a cow-calf operation, and my son-in-law and my grandson are doing the work on the place, and we have a big river runs through us, but we also have a lot of good short grass, Wyoming short grass, that raises really fat calves.
I'm Eric Groper, cow-calf guy from just down here on the reservation, southeast of here, about 100 miles. My wife and girls and I are cow-calf and raise quarter horses.
My name's Mike Jones. I'm from Arkansas. We're a cow-calf operation, run some pot trucks, and I represent Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi.
Josh Caruth, cow-calf operator, represent Arizona and New Mexico, and we do raise some horses as well.
All right, thanks, guys. These guys didn't know the questions, I guess. I should have gotten them to them, but they're not real deep. It's just kind of to give you a chance to learn their perspective, but they seem like kind of a somber group. So the first question is going to be, raise your hands if you love the Bee Gees. Oh, wait, that's the wrong page. That's kind of, no. We'll get going. I would like to just go, we'll just start with Shad again and go again. What's the hot button issue for you or for your region?
Oh, that's a hard question. The hot button issue for me is mandatory country of origin labeling. I believe it's a freedom issue. It affects our freedom to choose for the consumer, and I think it's the most important tool we can use to allow choice and truth in labeling in this industry. I think mandatory country of origin labeling opens up a lot of trade, a lot of commerce, and I think it's very important in terms of liberty.
I would say the same thing in our area. Mandatory cool is starting to be talked about more in Western Illinois and the state of Missouri. And another thing that's been really hitting us is the drought this year. We're in probably one of the worst drought I've lived through, and numbers of producers. A lot of them have exited, retired. Drought kind of forced them out. They sold their cows. Cows left the state. We're short on hay, and there's really not too many people my age getting back into it. The big question going forward for us is how much can we rebuild going forward? And that's been the hottest topic here this spring and summer in my area.
Yeah, representing Region 7, which is Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, there are a lot of smaller cow-calf operators and small feedlots. And I would agree that M-Cool is important, but I've traveled that whole region pretty widely, and it's not making the news big now, but it will by Christmas time. The pressure on the dairy, the remaining smaller dairies, it's going to be really bad. The price of milk is it's about half of what it was just a couple years ago, and there's large, 10, 15, 20,000 cow dairies that get set up in other geographies that contract directly around the milk co-ops, and so that price discovery doesn't end up, it negatively impacts the smaller dairies, and there's a lot of them that are, anyway, it's going to be hard on my district in particular. And so again, concentration of the dairy industry, and then of course we always have the reminder as you drive around in all the contract hog production in our areas, and the independent hog guys have had a tough go this last year as well. So there's a lot of support for what we're doing, what RCAF is doing, and because there's just constant reminders of what concentration does.
I guess in Ohio, beef checkoff's one of my biggest complaints, and a lot of it has to do with how the structure of the Ohio Beef Council is set up, and they've pulled the wool over our eyes for years, and it's all been Ohio Cattlemen's on the board. In the last 3 years, I've tried to get on the board. I've petitioned the Director of Agriculture and got letters back, and I was assured that I'd get a interview for it. Well, last year was the third year, never got an interview. They put a new guy on, but there's some things coming up this winter, and we're hoping we can make a dent in it.
I represent Region 1, which should be Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, Alaska. One of the things that, it's a pretty obvious thing would be a M-Cool. We see a lot of imported cattle coming into the feedlots, into the packing houses, so it's very obvious to see how M-Cool could be beneficial. Market consolidation, vertical integration, where packers are buying feeder cattle is one of the things that comes about. And then to top it all off, a lot of public lands grazing and predators.
So my area from Kansas, 5014 used to be the hot topic for me because of lack of competition, okay? So Kansas is like captivated state of America, right, when it comes to cattle business, and having these feedlots negotiate to send all their cattle to one packer is just beyond belief to me. Because running a sale barn, when you folks haul your calves to a sale barn, wouldn't you be pretty upset when you unloaded them that your calves are going to be priced and they're already sold from the time you actually unloaded them based upon what the other 80% of the calves, or 80% of the calves are going to be based upon what 20% of the calves are brought. So hot topic for me is 5014. I guess if we can't get that, then at least the enforcement of PNS, we need to figure out a way to hook the packer to actually owning these cattle even when they say they don't, because they actually do.
The biggest hot button issue with me and my family operation is the price that we sell our cattle and our grain for is not keeping up with the price of what it costs us to operate. That ratio is called parity. And I had a telephone conversation with a good friend of mine here about a month ago, and so he asked me, he says, how's the price of cattle doing? I said, well, it's a little bit better, but that doesn't tell the whole picture. And, yeah, oh, you're going to start talking about parity. He said, that's a fairyland. He said, I said, whoa, 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 wait a minute, Richard. I said, what we're trying to do now is the fairyland. Parity is reality.
The hot button issue, of course, this is kind of personal opinion. I think it's the checkoff. Unless we can fix that program so that it is responsible to those who pay it. A lot of these things we're dealing with, like not being able to get cool, which is extremely important, is the opposition is unfortunately funded quite well with our checkoff dollars, and that concerns me. I think we've got to cut the money supply so that it goes to what it should go to and not to policy groups that fight against what works best for us.
All of them.
Is there an all or above, all the above?
Yeah.
Anything,
There's always a
anything
D.
else?
Well, you've got MCOOL, which helps us. It doesn't cost us anything. Then you've got checkoff, you've got competition, which the government could do something about, but they won't. So I'm going to say keeping the government out of it and keeping them on track to promote freedom.
Maybe enforce the laws,
Yeah, there you go.
whether it's the Southern Border, or the Packers and Stockyards Act. Or,
There you go.
Yep. Mike?
He stole my thunder. I want to say all of them too, but I'm going to step out there and talk about something else that we don't like to talk about. That is in our area. I represent Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi. Education of our legislators. You talk to them about beef checkoff, they're like, "What's that?" So, education. If they can't legislate if they don't know what's going on, and then they don't know what's going on with our beef checkoff in our own state. Along with that, another issue is I ran into it this last week. Renewed some of our loans, and we went from 5% to 9% on our interest rates. And there's some older farmers, older than me. I'm no spring chicken, but those guys. There's the financial stress of what's going on in our area. The cows are being sold just to keep the lights on, and you know, these guys have worked all their lives, like a lot of people in this room has, to have what they've got, and now they're burning their equity trying to keep going. And without some kind of help from the legislature, we got FSA, we had him here earlier, and anything like that goes on, well, like there's a program, ERP. It was set in 20, it's 23, they still haven't paid any money out on it. I had people calling me on my way here, hey, have you heard when we're gonna get paid on the ERP? And because I try and stay on top of that, keep everybody educated about it. And one guy called me and said, Mike, I can't pay my light bill. And this guy's farmed 60 years, you know. And so those programs are out there, but the administrators of them, they can't tell you anything about what's going on. Along with some of that, mental health issues. Now, we don't like to talk about that. We're all rough, tough, and we're going to get it done and whoop down. But, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are really struggling. And we got to keep those in mind. Just like no farmer left behind. I think that's a great idea, and I don't participate like I should in it, but I encourage you all to participate in that. You can listen to a man's problems, and it helps him 100%, even though you don't think it does. So those couple of hot buttons that I have.
Amen.
The hot button for me, I would say Packers and Stockyards, MCOOL, checkoff. But the main reason is how to, if these get passed when we all need them to be passed, it's so we can do some passing of our own to our children. And it's hard because that's what we're living for now. And if we don't get something done in a quick fashion, I'm afraid some of these places are going to be liquidated.
That's right. It's kind of unfair to always make Cash try to come up with the best, so we're going to start with you and go back the other way, Cash. I guess sometimes you don't think about it, but you can't make time. You only get so much. So why do you take the time from your personal life to advocate for your industry?
It goes back to what it's the children. It's raising my family and the children.
Yep.
Well, I have to agree with Cash. You know, we've got an 11-year-old little girl, and I got a 27-year-old son. We got kids in between, and we get up and do what we do every day. So hopefully we can leave it to them. But what scares me more than anything is, are they going to be able to pay the taxes on it? Not the inheritance tax, just the personal property tax in Arkansas is jumped outrageously high. So, you know, not only do we have to figure out how to pay for feed and keep cows and equipment, we got something coming down the pike. It's called taxes. And a lot of people don't think about that till they're due. And so there's things out there. We have to be more profitable because his input costs are high. If we're more profitable, yeah, we can survive until we get things done like MCOOL and some of these other things done. Competitive markets, we're swinging at the fence, you know, just trying to stay alive. And like I said, my kids is the reason I get up and go do it every day.
Same here. It's all about family, just like it is for you guys. I got nephews, I got nieces, I got my own kids that we just fight for them and try and keep it independent so they're not working for somebody else.
Yes, it's family. And not only that, it goes back before me. I'm not the first generation. I'm in third generation, and my grandson will be the fourth generation. And a lot of sacrifices went forth in the beginning with my grandfather to even get us to the point where we have a place that's put together. And you hate to see that be lost when that is the family's heritage. And I just can't help but think, when I think about what they're trying to do, the wasteland they may take of the work that's been done by generations before, plus possibly making a slave out of my grandson. And so that's why I fight the fight.
I feel that spending time with RCAF or other organization is very timely and very well spent. I do like to go out and talk to people and try to get their opinions on things and use some of the things that I've learned to pass that knowledge on. And it's very gratifying to me to see the people and how grateful they are to have somebody come and talk to them and kind of share some of their troubles and so on. And it's a great satisfaction to me to visit and talk to people and carry the word on about RCAF and its principles and so on.
So as I look at these young guys, it's like they didn't grow up in the era that I did, and probably most of you that are my age or older, and that is the harder you work, the better you did, right? So I'm just trying to give back to an industry that gave so much to me. Between the ability to work outside with my family, I'm just trying to give back.
I'm going to say probably the best thing, that one of the reasons that keeps me going is I want to leave the cattle industry in better shape than when I got to it.
Reason I'm doing it is there's absolutely nobody in my area fighting for the cattle industry. I've been to meetings, I've talked to legislators, and like Mike said, the best thing we can do is get out there and start educating these people. And a couple letters, op-eds, you know, phone calls, you wouldn't believe how big a difference it makes.
Yeah, and I would echo, of course, the family. But beyond that, you know, rural America is a special place, and it's been so hollowed out. You just, if you drive across the state of Iowa, kitty corner, and stay out of the urban areas, and then drive into Des Moines, it's like somebody won the lottery there, and everywhere else they haven't. And so, really, underlying comes down to me that because I can already see that maybe motorhomes are going to show up in the summer to farm a lot of the ground in our area from absentee farmers. And then what does that mean? You know, so we've got to keep these communities stocked, and so we've got to continue the fight. But what really keeps me going, and this may sound corny, but I'm looking at a lot of faces out here that this meeting means a lot to me, and faces. You know, I see Kenny and Rick sitting over there, and Willie out there, and listening to Mike Calicrate. He's been knocking around on this stuff for a long, long time, you know, and a bunch of you that I'm not mentioning, but Staten, you know, and that really, you know, recharges my batteries. Although I don't want to get into this whole EV thing, but just keeps me charged up.
What drives me to kind of keep going and advocate is to show up as much as I can where I can, but what really drives me is the smaller barns in our area. There's 1 or 2 buyers, and I'm one of them. And if I'm not there, it's going to be a whole different market. Even if I don't have a market, I'll try to know what they're worth and help the smaller producers keep going, because we're a small community. We're all neighbors, and if something don't bring something where it should be, I'm going to be the first to hear about it. So it drives me to keep our neighbors and community going, and that's what drives me quite a bit.
Oh man, you want a lecture? I'm going to lecture a little bit. 13 years ago, when I heard about the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, something inside me stirred and said, there is something going on that we need to be very aware of. And through a channel of circumstances, I was led to Cheyenne, Wyoming, with Tracy Hunt, Andrea Hutchinson, and 4 other people in Harriet Hagman's law office. And a gentleman from Brazil come over, and he wanted to learn more about the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef and how it was going to affect us. And so I think there's a remnant of people who understand what's happening from the top down. And it's important that we understand that this comes from the global cabal, or what I call the global elite, down into the United Nations, into and the World Economic Forum. They use organizations such as the European Union to drag their nonsense down into environmental organizations such as the World Wildlife Fund, the Nature Conservancy. These infiltrate local, state, and national governments. And this is how this top-down control is. America was built to be bottom up. That's how we are supposed to be. And so the reason I fight is because, not only because of all these people and what they said, and the legacy and your legacy, these are all very important, but the main reason I fight is for those who gave it all. And they're the ones I fight for, and they're the ones I'll continue to fight for, because we are the beacon on the hill. And it's going to be all up to us to save this country. That's why I fight.
So I mean, to sum that up and just to summarize, I think it's pretty unanimous that the reason that we do this, the reason that we take the time, is this is generational. It's either been passed from generation to generation, and I see people on Facebook going at each other, oh, you inherited your place. I did it all on my own. And to that I say bullshit. There's nobody that can do this on their own without a neighbor helping them or somebody showing them what to do. It takes generations of institutional knowledge to do this. We're the specialists. And I guess when you have this multi-generational approach that we all value, it's not just that we inherited it, it's that generations sacrificed to hand it down, right? So we have multi-generational ambitions, and where RCAF comes into that is that we want to make it something worth inheriting, right? If you inherit dirt and you don't have a way to make a living on it, what are you going to do? Watch birds? And birds are pretty. Sorry. I really, it is the joy to be around these guys. And normally when I talk to them, they stick a needle in me and get me wound up. So you got to excuse me. And this one, it's a little bit of a gotcha question, but it's not. But give me a 1-minute elevator speech of a producer in your area. What would you tell them? Why should they spend $50 or $100 to join RCAF? I mean, what's to benefit? What's to gain? And especially for some of you guys that are from regions with smaller herds, right? Because some of us up here in the north, and that's a large part of our audience, don't understand. Although we do too, because there's a lot of producers, I call them the LED lights guys, right? They're the guys that won in the industry. They maybe got a little piece of grandpa's ground. They work a job in town. They come home in the dark. They feed their cattle in the dark at night. They feed them in the dark in the morning, and off they go again. But what would be your elevator speech to a producer in your region to try and get them to join RCAF, to convince them that it's worth their time and effort?
Well, I think the first thing, and I keep harping on it, but I think the first thing I would say is, what does your productive liberty mean to you? And how is that going to affect your legacy down the road? Our alternative organizations who represent the cattle industry are ran and funded by those out of the industry. They have no stake in the game. They don't understand these guys and the hard 28 years in a sale barn. You know, all these guys putting posts in the ground. It's all a part of it. It's all a part of and related to it. And they don't have that experience and stake in the game. So I say to them, how do you value your productive liberty? How does it come down to you? And if it does, if individual liberty means something to you in production and legacy and all of those things we mentioned before, what does it mean for $200 or $100 or whatever it may be to be a part of an organization that promotes individualism, promotes free market, capitalism, everything that America was founded on? And if they can't answer that, I say, or if they don't, and many of them don't because they're so beholden to other organizations. They're beholden to the people that don't have their best interests and don't care because they don't have that stake in the game. And I say, come be a part of us. Come help us win your industry back so you can leave that legacy, because not everybody has oil. Not everybody has solar. Not everybody has, 5, 10, 6th generation ranch to pass down. And so they have to pick a priority and say, where is your productive liberty? What does it mean to you?
Said about everything I wanted to say, Shat. I guess my elevator speech would be, don't let $50, $100, or $200 stand in your way from having a bit, guys that want to stay in it their whole career. Don't let that stand in your way of having a whole industry disappear on you. And that kind of, I'm starting to get through some people on that. You put that into perspective. If they want more and more buyers for their cattle, if they want to be able to keep paying the mortgages on their farms they just bought, or paying for fence and everything else, I say don't let the little things stand in your way of becoming RCAF, or pay attention to it and what's going on.
Well, what I would, real entrepreneurism, the real ability, not, sure, everybody's got side hustles of different kind, but too much of this industry has been, and the universities are terrible because they'll promote that, take your place in the industry, which means you've got to go work for somebody else, and that there's just a couple entities that drive the whole business. And we are the group that is fighting for those real entrepreneurial opportunities, and not just connected to because you got a guy, right? And so that's how I approach it, and say, if you really want to have real entrepreneurial chances for your kids and grandkids moving forward, come join in, because we've got to get to getting, because power power corrupts, and it corrupts absolutely. And that small business, that term is hardly ever mentioned today by our elected officials. It's like the only business that's worthy anymore is big business, which is hooey. And so we're absolutely in the right place, and what we're doing, and that we're wanting real meaningful change, not just, we don't go out and say, well, it's just the best we can do, so we've got to lower our sights, and this thing's coming to us. And so we've got to be proud, really proud for that, because we make some other folks uncomfortable for what we're trying to do. And so we need to just come at them hard and ask them to join up.
I guess what I would say, in my area, there's a lot of people that they were like me. When I got on this board, I didn't know a lot of things, but I've called everybody up here at some time or other. I think Eric Nelson's got me blocked now. But the biggest thing I could say is to have people ask questions. Ask us. We'll find the answer out. But right now, I think my best thing, what I'm going to take home is, in about a week or so, get on rcafusa.com and watch the videos, because you're going to see Tracy Hunt, you're going to see, everything that we went through here today, and they can explain it a lot better than I can.
What I would say is keeping and fighting to keep the cattle industry independent. We've watched some of our sister industries in animal agriculture fade away off the landscape, fade away from being independent, privately owned operations. And so keeping a competitive market alive, keeping away from the overreach of things like EID tags, RFID tags, is probably going to be some of the main things I'm going to say. If we don't keep fighting to keep the cattle industry independent, it will slowly fade off the landscape, and it will be just a faded memory.
So for me, it's are you in the cattle business or are you in the beef business? And I think a lot of young people, because of this generational thing, is my dad used to belong, my granddad used to belong to this organization, my dad used to belong to this organization. That's the best thing about RCAF, is it's a learning tool for learning what affects your bottom line, what affects you. So there is a great big difference out there, but you may have to go search it. You may have to go open it up, because we've all been infiltrated by these universities, by the radio stations, okay? Everybody has to do their part in teaching people, getting out and explaining it to them. Once they see the light, that, wow, that affects me. That affects my bottom line. That affects my business. Then they get it. So there is a difference between the cattle business and the beef business.
One thing I would say to an individual is that acting as an individual, your voice is very small. But acting as a nationwide organization, now your voice becomes much louder and more meaningful. Also, the organization you belong to has to be going on the right track. There's a lot of different cattle organizations, but then you have to ask them the question, well, are they on the right track? Are they supporting country of origin labeling? What are they doing about the beef that's being put on the people's tables? Is that an issue with them? And is the organization you belong to, are they really supporting that, or are they supporting something that's going on the right track? And so that's why I really feel important for you to be part of our organization, and we would like you to be part of our group.
Well, I think part of the problem where the area I'm from is the apathy, and they are satisfied with less than they should be willing to be satisfied with. They're all really tickled about these high calf prices, and I keep telling them, but it's still controlled. They're controlling it. They're afraid of that farm plan or the farm bill, and because of that, they may be artificially holding things up so that you will lay back and say there's no problem when there is. And there's only one organization in my book that's really on the national level putting forth real action to do something about the problems that we face that will lead to our extinction as ranchers and cattlemen. And that, you know, the old saying that the only way for evil people to gain control is for good people to do nothing. And even if you don't have to sit on the RCAF board, send in your dues and help with the funding so that Bill Bullard can get his job done, because he is a treasure.
I think she just said it all. I mean, from apathy on down, my biggest argument I get into, well, RCAF's been pushing these issues for 20 years. I say, yeah, and have we stopped? That's the thing. I mean, we always fight the hard fight. If you want to be part of an organization that compromises everything and gives our legislators the easy way out, we probably aren't for you. But to me, it's just right and wrong, and seems like we're always on the right side.
One of the first things I do is tell them to go to the RCAF USA website. Those girls have done a great job putting information on that so you can be educated as to what's going on. I can't remember everything. I can't remember yesterday sometimes. So I was like, you know, we've got all this stuff going on, but if you'll go to that website, and even today, Cattlemen today, they have that phone in that hand, and they can go Google RCAF USA and go look up everything that's going on and all the updates. And there's a lot of useful information. We just got to remember, we can't educate everybody, but if we educate them about that website, maybe they'll educate somebody else with it. We're kind of crazy. We got RCAF stickers on every piece of equipment we own because we run in 2 counties and in and out of places. And I've had people say, "What's RCAF? What's that?" You know, it's a good talking point, speaking point. We got it. I don't think we have one on the motorcycle, but we got one on the motorcycle trailer. So and on our pickups and windrowers and tractors and all that, balers, and we'll have people ask what that is. We'll be somewhere, and it gets conversation going. So, you know, use the stuff that we have access to as members. Take those stickers, stick them on your rigs. Maybe it'll get a conversation going. Maybe it'll get a paying member. Down south, nobody has a clue what RCAF is. I've been to sale barns. I've been everywhere. And they're starting to realize, hey, there's something besides NCBA. I got a neighbor that has an NCBA license plate, and I said, you know, they're kicking your, what I can't say, every day, and they're not helping you. And he's a small feeder. He has some cows and raised some calves. But I said, man, they're not helping you. You need to go look at the RCAF website and see what they're doing for you, because NCBA is not doing it for you. And so another thing, like I talked about, educating legislators, educate those people, give them options to go look at something. Don't just say, well, don't believe what I'm telling you. Go to this website, check it all out. All the proof is there. All the research has been done. Use that tool. And that's what I would say to anybody that doesn't know what RCAF is. And I would encourage everybody out here to use that tool and those, whatever it is that you have to get a member.
Okay, so the question, Brett, is what is my speech in an elevator for somebody to join RCAF? Is that correct?
Yep, just your quick, you know, off the cuff.
I think my speech to try to get them is what are their goals? I'll take something that Freddie said last night is some people now have a lot of money in a different industry that are getting into this that may not really have the goals that we do here to be prosperous and make money, and some of them maybe needing a write-off. So I guess the first question I would ask is, what are your goals in the cattle industry? And then lead on to the issues. Because I feel like now we're having some ranches that are bought for not heritage reasons. That's probably what I would do.
That's great perspective. So I've heard goals, action, opportunity, freedom, America. I'm just going to open it up to whoever wants to answer. Why does everybody think you're so radical? Anybody want to take a poke at that?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's because we believe in what we believe, and we take a stance. And look, we have some bend to us, because I think most of us are married. Sorry, but we have flexibility when it's rational. But this thing has been going on for so long. Come on, it's been going on for 40, 50, 60 years, and everybody's been turning their head and letting it go this way. The pendulum swing has got to be swung back this way, and you cannot give to watch the pendulum continue to do this. We got to bring the pendulum back. So it's going to take hard negotiations. If there's negotiating, I think our CAF, I feel like we're willing to negotiate on things that are feasible and make sense to the cattlemen. But we take a hard stance because we believe in what we believe.
I think, everybody knows me where I'm from. A lot of people know me here, but I push the limit. I mean, I push to the floor and I gas on a little more. And I think if we're going to make things change, that we're going to have to be radical. And if radical's speaking against what everybody's done for years that hurts us, so be it. I'm radical. And I think until we get radical, we're not going to make change.
Oh, it's on? Yes, I can't sit still on this one. They're calling us radical because we have the truth and we stand on values, and all they have is to accuse, label, because they don't have the truth. And if we stand on truth, we can fight this battle.
I don't really think we're all that radical, in all honesty. But I guess to a person that kind of says that, I guess would say is go take some time, educate yourself, and discern your own truth, and don't just get bought off by other advertising.
So I think the next 10 to 20 years are going to be a real challenge, not only for us as an organization, but for us as a society. What we are facing now, and it's beginning to wake people up a little bit, is our food security. It is severely being compromised today. I wish I had the time to show some of the research that I've done on the food supply that we have right now in this country. Years ago, there was a few scientists that were beginning to talk about climate change and this sort of thing, and so a lot of people said, well, they're kind of a kooks and kind of a radicals and this sort of thing with the predictions they were making, that the tipping point was going to be in the year 2050. And so, but a lot of people said, well, that's so far off, we'll worry about it then. Ladies and gentlemen, it's here now. It is because of the climate that we're experiencing all over the whole country now that is antagonistic to food production. Our supply of food in here is very, very close. It is very close today. When you look at the grain supply, I've got a chart that I show that is, for the past 24 years, the total production of 10 of the major grains in this country. And I've got that in one column, and I averaged it by dividing by 24, what the answer is. And then you take against that the consumption of these 10 grains, and you look at, for 24 years, what that is. And the final figure that you come up with is that we are using an average now today of 104% of our production of grain in this country. Then you say, well, now, wait a minute, that doesn't add up. How can you be using 4% more than what you produce? We have to import grain into this country, at least 4%, to feed the people in this country today. So This is serious. So we need to knuckle down and we need to get the word out to the consumer groups. We need to get the word out to the politicians that, hey, fellas, you better wake up, because when the grocery shelves are bare, it is too late.
And that's when we get the attention, is after the fact. We got get a little more proactive on this. Eric, were you going to say something?
Yeah, the word's been mentioned, but it's really educate. You know, our opposition in the industry, and it's human to not really like change, right? And what we're promoting is change, and that interrupts, you know, this group, we're trying to work out of a job, right? Other groups, they're there to perpetuate jobs, right? And keep doing what they're doing, and they're not, and that's why they're not really, they don't really operate on drastic change, just little incremental, just little bites, right? And we all know that that's not good enough. But, you know, I'll put meetings on and people come up and to me and say, well, you know, you were painted that you were gonna have, because you're with RCAF, you had an eye in the middle of your forehead, right? And so we've got to show them that we're just like everybody else, and explain to them what our policies are, because we get demagogued all the time that we're radical, we're terrible, you know, this and that, and it's from the people in the industry that don't want change. They absolutely don't, and they want to kill this industry because they think they're connected to one of the 4 or 5 players that have the control, right? And so educate, and I'm already aware, and we've got a bunch of great sponsors, and I'm not trying to put pressure on sponsors at all, but I'm aware of one sponsor that is going to help a group put on a meeting back in their home state sometime in the next few months, and I think that we overlook, you know, it's kind of funny around here when it's mealtime, there's a few more people that come around. It's kind of like when they hear the tractor, the cattle hear the tractor and the feed wagon, right? And we maybe need to figure out how to get the money to serve a meal and invite people in, and it's always comforting. It puts people at ease when there's a meal, right? And so I think we need to get back to that. COVID made everything really difficult, and everybody kind of got out of that, and I think people want that again, but it's a great upside. We have to educate, and it starts with our legislatures, the members of Congress, you know, anybody that we can interface with, influencers out in every community, and so help us put some of these meetings together.
Yeah, we truly are pay as we go. Your dues keep the lights on, keep the staff at break even, or you know what I mean. That is our operating funds, and our fundraising is what enables our activism. And I mean, you look at these guys up here on the board, and I mean you guys too. I'm preaching to the choir, okay? I'm really talking to the people on Cattle USA, and a lot of them wanted to be here, but it's a busy time of the year. But all these guys are volunteer board members. Every one of them bought their own motel room. They got themselves paid for their gas on the way here, paid their registration at convention. A lot of them did ride for the brands or have done other things throughout the year to support this organization. You know, you guys in the audience, I see a lot of people that I'm incredibly thankful for. We keep milking the same cow really hard, and it's you sustain us through the lean times, and we are so thankful because we believe in what we do. So I guess we're getting close to being out of time. Anybody else want to go on how radical we are? Darn.
Yeah, is this on?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think we're radicals. And how I got involved with RCAF is probably about 15 years ago. It's a short story. I was on my way to work one morning, and I was listening to the Ag News, and there was going to be a meeting down in Zanesville, Ohio with Bill Bullard and the NCBA, and they was going to talk about GIPSA or MCOOL, I can't remember at the time. Next day, I was listening to the news, and it was canceled. There was a scheduling conflict. So it just so happens about 2 months later, we had a county cattlemen's association, and the executive director of the Ohio Cattlemen's was there. And I got her off to the side. Well, I asked her, I said, hey, when are they going to reschedule that meeting? And she says, hey, I got a call from NCBA. They said, whatever you do, don't get on the stage with Bill Bullard. Those people know us. They don't want to debate us.
Well, quickly, coming on the heels of that, Dave, last week I had an individual that I hadn't seen in several years. And, you know, if you'll remember, I did a video that went viral and over COVID and got a lot of very powerful people in contacts. And a rancher from far west Texas the other day seen me. We hadn't seen each other in years, and he goes, "Did you know that the NCBA and the beef checkoff people were after you?" And I said, "What does that mean? They're after me?" He said, "They were coming after you." And I said, "Well, I never got a call from one of them." But to go back to your question, I think if producing right and standing for good on a moral foundation is radical, I'll be radical all day long.
Okay, well, we're getting close to the end of our time. I guess, you know, listening to you guys, it just, we all fall down. We all have rise and fall in our life, you know, and we were meant to take care of each other, and we try to. But tell me this, did America rise to greatness with a people who needed to be taken care of? Or was it opportunity? And that's a rhetorical question, but that's what I think of as I listen to you guys answer that. You know, if wanting to be able to make your own way is radical, then as Max said last year in the prayer breakfast, radical for freedom. Absolutely, that's what we are. And I mean, that's why I appreciate you guys so much. We're gonna wrap up here. I guess this is my chance to thank you guys for what you do and how much I appreciate you. Our board meetings are fun. I mean, sometimes they're quiet, so I've got I don't know, groper keeps us joking around, whatever, gets people going. But I'm thankful for them. I'm thankful for you, and I hope that we serve you. We try to stick to policy, but we've got to cut this down and get it going because the policy meeting is next, and we've got a hard deadline.
Real quick, Brett, I want to interrupt you.
Go ahead, Shane.
As me and Kyle go off the board, I want to take a moment to thank you personally. We've had a lot of great presidents. Gerald's here. Gerald is a mentor of mine, and he didn't even know that, but I think the generational gap came, and you're a new generation, and you have worked your hiney off this year really big time and put your neck out there for RCAF, and I personally thank you for that.
All right, thanks, guys. That's good. I guess with that, what's that? Go ahead.
Say that.
That's it. I did too. No, our CEO report is next. But if you guys would give these guys a hand, I'd appreciate it. We appreciate them.